Tenere. That's an iconic name, isn't it? I mean, forget about it. But even the T7, you know, the Tenere as we know it today, has absolutely become iconic in its own right. Dependable. It rides on that proven CP2 do-it-all parallel twin platform, genuine off-road chops, and I guess at least it's perceived as simple. Simplicity is something that off-road travellers really look for, because you know, you worry about your bike breaking on the road, you want to be able to fix it easily. And the Tenere has always been perceived as simple and thereby robust. Earlier this year, Yamaha announced a raft of changes to the Tenere platform. Probably the most significant update in some time, and to my befuddlement, some Tenere loyalists had it in their heads that these changes were going to somehow take away from what makes the Tenere special, its simplicity. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's patently absurd. Before we get into what's got Tenere loyalists in such hysterics, let's go over some of the obvious changes. A familiar Tenere look, but slightly modernised. One-piece rally seat, super cool. The fuel tank, sculpted, as they say, but it's also been moved forward and sits slightly lower, all in the name of better weight distribution. Still at 16 litres. This one-piece windscreen and front end and headlight unit is also subtly updated. Yamaha has clearly listened to its customers too, which I really like to see. They've made little quality of life changes, which areas in which the Tenere was found out in previous iterations. Little things like here, these accessory brackets on the pillion seat, they're sturdier. They used to break apparently. Likewise with this exhaust bracket. We've now got the accessory big, beautiful foot pegs. They're now standard. And they've made adjustments to the kickstand switch. That was a point of weakness before. The CP2 engine, the 689cc parallel twin, we know this engine so well now. It powers the Yamaha R7, the MT-07, the XS R700, the Tracer 7. In different iterations, of course, but it's one of those great motors which is modular, but it never feels like a compromise in any of its applications. Not a big change this time round. It now meets the latest Euro 5 plus emissions regulations. I hear more responsive torque off the bottom, but largely unchanged. We've also got two new colour schemes. This one's frozen titanium. There's also icon blue. But the former, this one, is now available with a lower seat height option, something that customers were asking for. Fully adjustable inverted forks. At the back, a completely new rear linkage design and revised rear shock absorber, maintaining the 200mm wheel travel as seen on the outgoing model. You should know that the lower seat height option drops wheel travel to 180mm. So that's the obvious stuff out of the way. Here's where the most of the changes occur, here in the cockpit, and the parts that are something of contention amongst Tenere owners. Let's start with this 6.3-inch TFT screen in portrait format. I think it looks grouse, certainly suits the rally tower style, but I'm not totally convinced that it's more practical than in landscape format, but who cares, it looks cool. I notice it is a bit weird if you add a second accessory up onto the tower. It's all a bit, I don't know. So, we moved to ride-by-wire. Oh no, my cable throttle. Who cares? Move on. We got a ride-by-wire throttle giving us 2 power modes. We've got Explorer and Sport. Look, I put it in Explorer. I basically use it as a rain mode, you know. I mean, it's not so much power here that I think anyone's going to get into so much trouble they need to tune it down, but it's nice to have. Now, what we also get is switchable traction control and switchable ABS, which has meant we've needed to get new switch gear. We've got this sort of joystick here. We can move through, we can click mode over here, and we can toggle our ABS front, ABS rear, and traction control. That's easy enough. What I adore, and I think is the coolest thing ever, watch this. I'll switch the bike off. Now, in most cases with adventure bikes, you turn the bike off on the ignition, you turn it back on, your ABS and your traction control return. So is the same here. I think it's probably by law. It's a safety thing. But what Yamaha's done is given us a big old button, big old tactile button that you hold down. Watch this, I'll hold it down. And it reverts to the last ABS and traction control settings. How cool is that? Also with this switchgear, we've got these strange indicators. They're a button right and a button left. And they're self-cancelling. I abhor self-cancelling indicators, but you can ignore them. I just turn them off manually anyway, and it's personal preference really. In here you'll also see the suspension, which is now fully adjustable. You've just got these little adjusters on the top of each fork. Super cool, and puts it in line with some of the competitors. Nice colour match handguards now. Don't worry about this. Sorry, geezer. Happens to the best of us. This 6.3-inch TFT also can give you access to turn-by-turn navigation as long as you connect to it via Yamaha's My Ride application. I've really just struggled to see how having this ride-by-wire throttle and these still fairly simple rider aid suite could at all hinder this bike up. It remains one of the funnest adventure bikes to punt off-road. It feels so neutral. The ergos are probably a bit different to what would generally be my preference. I like taller, wider bars, and it was a bit jarring when I first started riding the bike, but it all made sense once I got used to it. Yamaha has clearly put a lot of effort into making this Tenere exceptionally practical as ridden on the dirt. We've been riding it with big knobbies, so it's, you know, hunk of shit on the road. It's nothing you can do about it. It's big knobbies are going to do that. But the Tenere is one of those adventure bikes where it really appeals to people who want to ride them off-road. They're good on the road too with standard tyres, no doubt, but you put some knobbies on this and take it out in the bush and it's amazing what you can do. Love that we've got these big foot pegs as standard now. If you're riding on the dirt, you just want to be sure-footed. I guess what I'm trying to get at here is the notion that the Tenere has gone all SpaceX is ridiculous. I mean, we still don't have a standard up-down quick shifter, cruise control, heated grips. It hasn't got a 6-axis IMU. And that's kind of the point of this bike. It is still simple. Yamaha has made purposeful changes that brings it up amongst its rivals on the spec front, but retains so much of those things that make the Tenere just grouse. I mean, it is one of the best things ever to fling around in the bush. There's not so much crazy stuff that's going to break and worry you. It's dependable, it's simple, it's versatile, and a cracking bike. And those changes to the ergos and geometry and the fully adjustable suspension only made this bike a better thing to punt around the bush.